What's up everybody, Travis Bogart here at Above the Rest Training Systems in Cheyenne, Wyoming, bringing you another exercise library video. Today's exercise is part of ATR's Intro to Strongman series focused on kegs. We are actually loading kegs today. But before we dive in, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so that you don't miss anything coming out of Above the Rest Training Systems. Keg loading is a pretty common strongman event that involves picking the keg up and loading it up over a bar. The kegs are typically going to start upright, but if the promoter allows it, you're usually allowed a little bit of time to fiddle with it to get it lined up just how you want it before the event starts. As you line up to pick up the keg for the first time, you're going to want to use a relatively narrow stance because this is going to allow for a really big lap position once the keg's off the ground. To deadlift the keg off the ground, you're going to want to tilt it up onto one corner with your top hand farthest away from you on the top and your bottom hand on the closest side to you on the bottom. Once you've got it in this position, you're going to want to fall back into the lift, slide the keg right up the shins to roll it into the lap position. If the keg is really heavy, you might just tilt it over on its side so that you can get both hands on the high side of the keg. It's gonna make for a little bit of an easier deadlift. With the keg in the lap position, you're gonna wanna try to drive your knees forward as far over your toes as you can. This is gonna flatten out your femur relative to the floor and build a really nice position for you to set that keg on. If you don't do this, then you're gonna actually have to manually hold the keg in your lap position and it's gonna drain your energy. I highly recommend using squat shoes or lifters for loading events specifically for this reason. They elevate the heel and give you some artificial ankle mobility so that that knee can drift a little bit further forward and make the lap position more comfortable. As you grab the keg with the intent to lift it out of the lap position, our goal is to keep it as high up on the torso as we can. If we're gonna pin the keg to this particular spot on our torso, we have to create force from the opposite side of the keg to pin it into that position. So we're gonna want our hands as close to that point on the keg as we possibly can. Kegs are obnoxiously large, and you may not have arms long enough to reach all the way around it to get to the opposite side of the keg. If that's the case, you may have to split your hands with one going high and one going low so that the average pulling force comes from the same spot. It's pretty likely that one of those two hands is gonna have the ability to pull harder than the other. And so actually getting the average pull of the two hands to be in the same spot as it would be if you could reach all the way around it might be a little tricky. You might have to play with it, figure out where your hand positioning specifically needs to be for you and your strength to pull that keg. If you end up pulling from too high up on the keg on the other side, it could slip down your torso as you go to lift it. If you start pulling from too low, it could slip over the top, but more likely is that the leverage of the keg is just gonna be bad. It's gonna create really heavy lift for you, and you're gonna struggle once you get to heavier weights. Once you have your hands locked in on the keg, it's time to actually load that keg up over the bar. To load the keg, you want to extend your knees, trying to keep your hips as far forward in the movement as you can. You don't want to let your hips shift back as you come out of the lap position because one, it's going to make the keg really heavy and pull forward on you as you're trying to lift it. And two, as you fire your hips through, you may be creating more force with your hips than your lock can sustain, and the keg will slip down your torso as a result. You'll lose height and you could miss reps during the event. As you lift the keg, you want to try to keep it as high tucked up underneath your chin as you can and really extend the entire body towards the top of the lift to make sure you get as much altitude for the keg as possible before sending it over the bar. You want to aim the keg up high into the sky over the bar, not at the bar. If you can see the bar as you're loading the keg, you're probably not lifting it high enough to get it over the bar. You want to have eyes up, be looking up, get it as high as you can, and then just tilt forward to let the keg drop over the bar once you get there. In the heat of the moment, it's pretty tempting, but you want to try to make sure you're not in the habit of throwing the kegs over the bar. Especially with kegs that are a little bit lighter, you're inclined to try to chuck it over the barbell because it feels fast and explosive. But this is problematic for two reasons. One, it's really hard on the training partner or event staff or whoever that's receiving those kegs to give them back to you. And two, if you do send the keg that way, you're making them spend time fumbling with the keg to get it back to the starting point, and that's time you're losing in your event. As you drop the keg, you want to try to drop it in control, right over the bar, straight back down to the ground, right in front of the bar. That's going to make for the fastest event time and the smoothest training. When you are training keg loading, make sure you have a safe place to drop it. Here at ATR, we have thick rubber matting in our Strongman room that you can drop the kegs on, but sometimes we'll still recommend a crash mat just because the kegs can take a weird bounce when they hit that rubber. I also recommend weighing down your bar, or at least having a training partner brace the bar as you're loading your kegs so that it doesn't run away from you as you go to load it and hit the bar accidentally. A quick note, a very common rule in strongman competition disallows athletes from grabbing a hold of the bar to help them pull and chest bump the keg over the bar. Don't get in the habit in training of touching the bar or the apparatus that you're loading kegs over, because it's probably not going to be legal when you get to the contest. Competitions in the event description are typically going to disclose what the height of the bar is going to be for the keg loading event. If you're just loading kegs for fun, a good starting place is going to be about 48 inches for women or 52 inches for men. You might want to set the bar a little bit higher if you're a taller athlete or you're using lighter kegs, and you might want to set the bar lower if you're a shorter athlete or using heavier kegs. If you are going to take it to that extreme, the highest I would recommend at all is 60 inches and the lowest I would recommend is 40 to 42. If this looks like fun, you're interested in trying keg loading, be sure to check out the Intro to Keg workouts linked in the description below so that you can see how we would use keg loading in a regular workout here at ATR. Guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so that you don't miss anything coming out of Above the Rest Training Systems. We will catch you in the next video.